Welcome everyone to our July Power Hour. I am Tessa Chappell coming to you from the muggy Midwest state of Indiana. I live outside Indianapolis. Joined by Megan, who's out in a balmy Washington state, and we will see her face about halfway through tonight. She'll introduce herself. So this is Power Hour. We're going to do 2 layouts in 1 hour and work our way through. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. And mine's pretty simple, so we'll get started. We'll flip down. All you need for mine is a trimmer and some paper and some adhesive. So if you saw my previews, I've been working this week with, okay, let's talk about how the week's gone. So Meg and I are currently in the middle of our summer challenge right now. And so we've been making layouts for that. And this was my week. And I've been enjoying the fur baby cat. I have cats. And so I've been doing some layouts for that. And originally this was my layout is out of Fur Baby Cat. So this one's the one you see on the handout. And then I also learned this week that this resembles a popular quilting pattern. I don't quilt. So quilting and scrapbooking obviously are like-minded inspiration. So this can be a 2-page layout if you want to create a second one. We're just going to do one for tonight. If you want to do 2-page and you know that, you can go ahead and cut double strips as we go. And you can orient this in the direction that you choose, but if you're using directional print, you need to know which way you're going to lay out your layout from the beginning. So this is my first one with the fur baby cats, my little kittens. And then I thought, you know what, it's 4th of July week and I should make it out of US of A because that would be more appropriate to post on Facebook, right? You know, here's the teaser for the week. Is US of A. This paper pack just sold out, so you have to get it from an advisor that might have it in stock. But really nice that we just had a paper pack and then the border, so we didn't really get stickers embellishments with it. I thought I was going to make the second half of this tonight, and I realized I don't need a second half because I only have 1 photo from the 4th of July. So I'm going to keep these tucked away. You guys like to sometimes see about organization. We talk about the paper sleeves quite a bit from Stampin' Storage. Those are the ones you see us pull out a lot because I keep my stuff for class in them, the one that are open-sided. These are their closed paper sleeves where it's only open on the top. And so some of these smaller collections, I keep it there. And then this is the 8.5 by 11 one. And so when I have my scraps and like the borders, I just keep them contained in here and slide them into there. So it'll be ready next time I have some July 4th photos for that. But I did make this one. I used the fireworks punch. Someone asked, you know, I can't wait to see you put photos on there. Well, we only have 1 photo. It's not going to be real hard. So the kids, their dad has a pool. So it's a much better day with him at the pool and grilling than it is hanging out with me here at home. So I made them take a picture on the porch before they left. It looks like the first day of school because this is where they all stand first day of school. But I'll cut a big mat for the photo and just center it on here. So if you only have a couple of photos, that will work well. If you have more than 2 photos, then you can just use peekaboo pockets or cut them down. I would mat your photos on this kind of layout when you have all of these busy prints. A mat actually does help keep your photo a little bit more focused on the design. So that was the July 4th layout. So tonight I was like, okay, what am I gonna make tonight? And I do have some Father's Day photos printed. So I pulled out Positive Vibes. So for this layout, you're gonna need strips cut from 3 different double-sided prints. And for the most versatility, you wanna like both sides of your paper. So choosing paper is probably the biggest challenge we have sometimes for doing layout. So it seems easy to be able to pick 3, right? It's not always so easy. I thought tonight I was actually going to maybe use some of those smaller half packs we've had, you know, Washington, D.C. or the New York one. But when you're using a small pack like that, you're going to have to use every side. And sometimes some of those sides, if they have the bigger designs or kind of those, you know, those pretty overall papers, don't work as well. So I ended up going to a larger pack that gave me more options. So this pack is nice because it has a lot of tonals in there. So I'm going to look at the patterns too, and I want to make sure that the patterns I do pick out will coordinate with each other, but I do want a strong tonal influence. So here's my kind of the tonal size of the papers, and here are the prints. I think I like this smaller print, that dark one. I'm going to use the words, and then I think this one, not this one, because I already have that print. the blue might work in well, or this one would. So let's see what I have on the back side. So that means on the back side, I have a dark blue. I have a light blue. And it would be this blue or the purplish color. So I'm going to go with the purplish color so it gives me a variety. So that's how I'm going to choose my papers. I just stained my 2-inch trimmer, and I'm going to 12-inch trimmer because I'm going to cut 2-inch strips. So I need 2 2-inch strips from every paper. So if you're going to make a double layout, then you want to go ahead and cut 4 from every layout. Before you cut, you do need to look at your print. So I think I mentioned this on the handout. If you have a paper that is a strong horizontal design, then you want to make sure you're cutting it so that it will sit long ways on your paper. If you have a print that you would rather go vertical, that's fine. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So I think the only one of these that matters is going to be this one. So I'm just going to make sure I turn it while I cut. And I'm going to cut 2-inch strips, 2 from each. I know that I have enough papers to do 2 sides. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 4 of each. It'll also help me go a little slower so that you guys can keep up. This one does have a design too. I want that to go horizontal, so I'm going to turn that one also. Now one more. This is a little bit floral for Father's Day, but I like that it was darker. And then there's definitely purple in the photos. My dad actually had on a light purple shirt. So this will work well. Okay, to avoid confusion, I'm going to go ahead and separate out my 2 piles. I'm just going to focus on 1 page at a time. So I have my strips. Now you have to think a little bit at this step. So the next step is for us to cut these out in different lengths. So there's a couple of notes. You have to decide, first of all, which one do you want across the top of your layout? It's going to be the piece that's uncut. So we're going to kind of do a little bit of a dry fit as we lay them out. It really is a print. The backs are solid, so I know that they're going to fit in easily. I know that I want my words to be a long strip. Here's the fur baby one. You can see I have my words here. My print across the top is kind of the dark one with the cat, so it's a little bit of a statement, and the rest of them are kind of tonal in the lighter prints. So I think this is my favorite paper in there. So I want that one for the top, and I want this one to be here. And so what does that mean? It means that which one you want across the top, you have to leave one of those a full 12 inches. And we're going to cut the other one into 4 inches and 8 inches. So I'm going to cut this. I'm just going to do a 4-inch strip with a trimmer. That leaves me 8 on the other side. It's easy for us to be a little loose on our lines. For this one, you're going to see as we lay them out, really do try to be centered on the line where you're cutting. It doesn't matter as much with the long strips, but the 16th, when we get off a little bit, will show up at the end, which we'll see. So I have those cut. Okay, the next one. You have to decide which print you want down the vertical edge of the paper. And I know I want that one there. And this one's probably going to go vertical. I can double check myself. Yeah, so this one's going, the vertical one is going to cut one of them into 10 inches in two, and the other one into two 6-inch sections. So 10 and 2 and 6 inches. And that leaves us one strip left. We're going to do 10 and 2 and 4 and 8. Okay, you'll need something to put your base onto, so you can just grab, you're not really going to see much of what's underneath, but you can choose something dark or something light depending on it. I mean, you might see it along the edge. I have a white sheet. It's just the backing sheet from one of the paper packs. It's our current ones that's kind of thin. So I'm going to piece together on top of this. Before we adhere anything, we're going to lay out our pieces. So I know that my 12-inch goes up here. I have a vertical down the side. And my other 8 inches, or the 10 inches here. So the 12 inches, a 10 and a 10. And I'm going to kind of work my way around. I know that my 2 inches are going to go down here in the corner. Play around a little bit with the colors next to each other. We cut strategically so that it should have kept your prints far enough apart in your design. When you get down here at the bottom, the 2 inches from, if you chose one like me that kind of had the words, a statement print up here, your 2 inches is going to be down here. But hopefully your colors kind of laid out in a way that works. And just to slow things down to show you, I could flip all of these and get a completely different look. Well, I like my first one better. So once you're confident with where you want to adhere, I'm going to start at the top and then work my way around. You can use repositional tape if you have it. And then I'm going to work down the left. When you put your pieces close together, you do not want to overlap them. And I didn't know how to describe it. You really kind of want a loose fitting. because when you get down here, you're going to see a little bit of the discrepancy from your cuts. I had to do kind of clean up my edges. I had to do straight cuts for all of the layouts, which is fine, but it just eliminates how much you have to cut off. This is a nice layout for some of those paper packs where you just love all of the prints. Some of our tropical ones would work really well. Obviously, the fur baby dog or cat would work well. What I was finding though, like I said, the smaller half packs, you really kind of have to look closely at all of them to see if it would work. So here's where inevitably I'm going to see some differences in my cuts at the end. You can see that this strip isn't going all the way down to the bottom. I'm pretty generous with my tape on this one since I have so many pieces. Make sure I want that on the edge, or I could put it like that. I think because this has a white edge, I'm going to actually put it towards the inside. See, look at that. So I don't know any way to avoid this. It happened on every single one of them, where I would see the edging, the differences in cutting the strip. So I'm going to give myself just straight cuts along the edges. It's not that much in the end. When I put it into my book or onto my page, if you're putting this onto a scrapbook page, you're going to notice it a little bit more than if you're sliding it into a book. If you really don't want to cut it, you could line it, you could just do a thin paper strip. You could punch a border. I'm just going to cut mine off. So that is pretty easy to put together once you choose your paper. What do you guys think? So what can you do with this? So there's a couple options for decoration. So like I had the paw punch for the pet one. These are 2 inches, and all of our icon punches, like the paw punch, the sun, those are all fitting within a 1 3/4 on the punch. And so all of those single punches will fit in these squares or along the edge. So as you place your photos, you can fill in your gaps with punches if you want. You can also punch chain borders or use laser borders or stickers to fill in some of it or go along the edge. I think I did on the pet one, I used one of the borders up there. On the USWA, I filled in with the fireworks punch because they fit in pretty nicely. Again, I will mat my photos. I don't mat all the time. Here's a couple of the photos. I have 2 sisters, so it was the girls and dad. We were the only ones in town in the state. Well, my brother he's in Indiana, but he didn't come down. So of course we made lots of jokes about whose dad's favorite are. And then part of the reason why I have so many photos is because my nephew was there. When you have 1-year-olds around, it's easy to take a bunch of photos, right? And like 14-year-olds that don't care so much. So picture of my mom. So these are all the photos I have. I probably end up using some peekaboos and maybe narrowing them down a little bit. But you can see where the blues and purples, this set would work well with it. Any questions? So if you're going to do a second layout, then you just want to cut the same way. So I would just make sure you're paying attention. You have your strips, and just the 10 and the 2s, the 6 inches and the 4s and the 8s allow you to kind of have your prints spread apart so they're not right next to each other. So if you have any questions as you go, put them in the chat. I will work on mine while Megan does hers. and I will get it posted into the group by tomorrow. So thank you.
All right. Well, thanks you guys for joining us. I'm Megan Jacks out in Washington State. We are a little warm here today. My room is a little stuffy. I don't have air conditioning. And so makes things just a little more uncomfortable. So for my layout, I don't know, we're just going to jump in and get started. So hopefully you guys have all the stuff ready to go. I'll switch over to my table and we'll get going. All right, so here is, let me show you the layout. So I have photos on my sample layout. I will not have photos to share with you on my demo layout just because I didn't have a chance to pull some other photos. So you can see here, this just kind of started out with just, you know, you'll need a background page, something to work with for this sample layout. I had some just kind of a army green out of the earthy home, but for today's layout, I'm going to be working with the Sweet Summer collection, but I'm mixing in some of the Totally Tonals. So the Sweet Summer collection, actually, I'm only using one piece of paper from it. I am using the Coral Suns. The opposite side has the popsicles. And the great thing about this is the popsicles are what is helping me drive the color choices for the rest of it. I thought this would be a fun layout to do for Cody or my family eating some ice cream, maybe, we'll see. But I was looking at the colors in here. So we can see that it's got the orange color, which really goes with the with the tangerine cardstock, which meant that I could probably go to the Totally Tonals tangerine pack and pick out some color there. So I've got some tangerine tonal paper. You can see here, this piece of paper right there is going to be the one that I'll be using like I did for the red and white stripe with the blue. I use both sides of the paper. I'm going to do that with the popsicles. The opposite side to that is the suns. So that's going to be what I'm going to be flipping aside. My background page, I pulled out of Totally Tonals Island Waters. It has that same kind of aquashy blue color in here. So this is all going to be put together with this as the background. And then for some accent, I am going to be coming in with some of the, like I said, the Totally Tonals tangerine and some canary cardstock. So when you're seeing these Totally Tonal products come out from Creative Memories, I am finding that they are nice complements to some of our collections. It's easy to come in here and say, okay, what were the coordinating cardstocks for Sweet Summer? And then you can go to those corresponding Totally Tonal packs and pull in some neutral pattern. There is a kind of a tangerine color in the Sweet Summer collection, but it's got starfish all over it. And I really didn't want starfish with my popsicles. So being able to get some pattern neutral stuff worked great. All right. So getting started, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to build our borders. And you'll notice here in this sample, I use the Border Maker system, and I am punching, and I'm using 2 different Border Maker cartridges. You don't have to. If you don't have 2 that coordinate, here the chevron and the stars coordinate really well, and they work, it has a military theme to it, so that worked perfect. For my layout today, I am going to be using flip-flops and the Sun Border Maker cartridges. These are both knockout style, meaning they only punch the design. They don't alter the edge, and they do stay attached to the paper. If you don't have any knockout style, you could use an edge style. If you have just simply the picket fence, you could use that. You can mix and match edge style Border Maker cartridges. Edge style is something like picket fence that stays attached to the paper. I didn't have picket fence pull. Oh, there it is. Sorry. This is picket fence. It comes with all the Border Maker systems. You can see here it gives us a decorative edge, but it stays attached to the paper. This one would work perfectly fine for this. or any other style. I would say for the most part, the technique I'm going to show you works best with an edge style or a knockout style. If you're using a chain style, it's perfectly fine if it goes best with your layout, but some of the techniques that we do here won't necessarily work. You'll have to just adjust your layout accordingly. So I need 3 border elements. The border elements are there's 2 layers to the border elements. I'm actually going to use this tonal orange piece along with the canary cardstock. Canary is going to be my bottom layer, and the tangerine or the orange tonal will be my top piece. So the first thing I need to do, I'm going to move some of these pieces aside, is I need to go ahead and trim. I need to cut 3 tonal base strips to 1 3/8 inch wide. So I'm going to cut 3 canary bases to 1 3/8 inch. And I'm just using a straight blade for this. And I need 3 of those. I can set my canary cardstock to the side for now. If I want to use it later for some accents, that's great. The next thing I need to do is I need to use my trimmer again. And since I am using a knockout style punch, I'm actually going to use my trimmer with a decorative blade, and I'm going to use wave blade for mine. Switch out my blades. And I am going to trim off the edge to establish that decorative edge. So I'm just trimming off about 1/8 of an inch. And then what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead, and this edge that I just created, since I'm using a knockout style punch, will not be altered. It will stay with that decorative edge. See if you can see a little bit. Wave is pretty subtle. You can see that decorative edge. I'm going to put it into my paper holder. If you're using an edge style punch, you won't need to use the decorative edge or the decorative blade on your trimmer, because if I was using picket fence, it would just chop all that pretty wave edge off. But since I am using the knockout style punch, it will leave that wave edge intact. I am going to alternate between flip-flops and the sun cartridge. So what I will do here is I am going to punch with my suns first, and I'll punch every other slot. So we think of our slots starting at the top of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to punch the 1, and then I'm going to skip, and I'm going to come down to 3. And I'll skip and come to 5. Now I'm going to swap out my cartridges, and I'll punch the spaces that I skipped before. So 2, 4, and 6. So now you can see how this is going to start to come together a little bit. You can see those sunshine and the flip-flops there with that canary underneath. So after I punch this, now I'm going to come back over, and I'm going to trim it at 1 1/4 inch. I'm going to switch back to my straight blade. You could use still that decorative blade if you wanted to. I'm going to trim it to 1 1/4 inch. Now, when I did this, what I did is I went ahead and I attached my top layer to my bottom layer. I just went ahead and lined it all up. It's flush on the straight edge side, so I can see that canary hanging out and that decorative edge. So I'll go ahead and attach this. Like I said, where I have my straight edge, I am lining that up flush with the edge of that cardstock base. Now this next step that we do after we attach this, if you want to, you can use your perforating blade or you can use your scoring blade. I'm going to use a perforating blade. The scoring blade would also work. And I am going to do a light perforation, 1/8 of an inch from the straight edge. This step is completely optional. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here with my finger and just lightly pull up on that to give myself a little bit of dimension. There you can see that little bit of dimension that it gives it. All right, so we've made one. Now we just have to repeat it 2 more times. For this one, my paper is the same pattern on either side. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and cut both sides with my decorative blade. So I just use this decorative blade one time, trim both sides. If your paper is directional, you may not necessarily be able to do that. I have flip-flops in here. So I'm going to do is I'm going to, I don't think it matters too much whether my flip-flops is on this one, if I go ahead and start with my flip-flops. Just as long as I'm doing every other one. Mixing and matching your border maker cartridges can be a lot of fun. Something to practice with scrap pieces of paper and just see what you think and then take note, especially if you're working within themes. So for the summertime, sunshine and flip-flops or footprints works really, really well. Like I said, for the military ones, going more with the stars and the chevrons, it really just, you know, you have to play around with a little bit, maybe have a notebook or something that you keep or take some pictures so you can see how things work out. So I've got both sides trimmed, and now I'm going to come in here, grab my straight blade again. And I'm going to trim this at 1 1/4 inch. And I'll trim the other side at 1 1/4 inch. This total piece here, I'm going to keep for mats. At least I think I'll use them for mats. I might wait on my mats just to see what my photos look like when I eventually have photos. And once we get all 3 of our borders done, then it'll be time to dive into the rest of the layout. Almost there. I let my kitten into my scrapbook room for the first time today, and she managed to stay out of trouble. She kind of just curled up underneath my desk. I think she's a little too warm to for her to cause any trouble.
Did you give her a name?
Well, she's loosely called Ginger, but we just call her Kitty. I mean, that's just how it works in my family.
So Ginger.
Ginger, maybe. That could
Or
change. Well,
Like-
the joke is she gets called all sorts of different things, right? We joke around whether or not she's what else should we name her based on her behavior, right? She's she's a kitten, and it makes me so we were encouraged, or obviously with kittens, they encourage you to have little toys and things for them to play with and all sorts of stuff. I never did that for our other cat. I mean, the other cat had like 2 toys, right? And half the time they were lost. But Kitty has a lot. She has quite the assortment of little toys. The kids enjoy picking things out for her. And but she loves these little plastic springs. I thought that has got to be the most ridiculous thing ever that I've ever seen, these ridiculous little plastic springs, but she loves them. And then she loves the little mice things or whatever. I mean, she picks these up, carries them around the house. I don't know. I actually told my husband, I said, I think we were actually kind of rude to our former cats, that we didn't have enough toys for them. I feel like I need to send your cats like little gift bags and say that I'm sorry your mama only gives you 15 pebbles of food and everything, but here's some enrichment toys.
They're outside catching the real thing, so they don't need anything.
That is true. Yeah, Kitty doesn't go outside. So we've got our 3 borders done now. So now it's time to move on. We're going to take a look at that cut guide that I put together for you. You have to determine, if you have a direction to your pattern. You can see up here, originally I had some stripes that I wanted going a very specific direction. So I made sure that those stripes were running horizontal when I made those vertical cuts. This particular paper with the popsicles on one side and the suns on the other, it doesn't matter. I do, Anastasia, I do like the name Kitty, but we already had a cat named Kitty. And so it feels kind of, I don't know, there's some debate in my family of whether or not we can truly name the cat Kitty. But I think it only gets bad if we ever give her a little like cat sibling and actually call him Cat, then that's like totally just redoing our Cat and Kitty 2.0, right? All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and trim this to 5 inches wide. I need to put back in my straight blade. 5 inches wide. Now here, I also kind of want to think about a little bit is whether or not you can see here, I've got a vertical image here and a square image down here. Do I want to maintain that same thing where I've got the square on the 4x6 on top with the 4x4 on the bottom? And yeah, for the most part I do. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this. I want to cut my square out of this piece right here. And the reason this matters is because when I cut this off and then I cut a piece over here and I cut a piece over here, when I put them back on my paper, I'll have a better chance for that seam to kind of line up again. It doesn't have to be perfect it doesn't quite match up, but I think it'll look a little bit better. I was more concerned about it with my stripes on my other paper. So here, this is going to be my 4x6 that goes on top. This is going to be for the 4x4. This is actually a 5x7, and this is a 5x5. So they'll actually show mostly with the, let's see here. I'm going to have my sun. This is how the paper is going to sit on here. So you can see my sun pattern here at the bottom there. I've got it all lined up. So what I want to do is I want to cut 1 inch off of this side up here. So I'm going to put this in 1 inch. I want to cut the 1 inch off the left side. Flip that over and there's the popsicles. Now I want to cut 1 inch off this side. And it doesn't have to be 1 inch. You can cut 1.5, you could cut a 1/2 inch, you could cut 2 inches, whatever amount of that you want to show. The red and the white stripes is pretty bold, so I only went with 1 inch. I probably could have gone with 2 inches on this one. So we can see how this is going to start to take shape over here. Oops. The borders go at the top and the bottom, and then these will sit right on top. I'm not 100% sure I like this piece behind it. I may have to go and just see what I have for solid cardstock. What I'm not liking is I'm not liking that I'm getting a good contrast here. So we'll see. Returning to this paper here, I need to cut a 4-inch segment and cut 3 4-inch squares. This piece is going to be scrap. Four and 4. And then I'll cut it 1 inch off of each one of these. It doesn't matter which side since these don't line up. So that's how everything would start to come together. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure that I'm in love with that. I don't know if there's going to be anything else that I would like to use. I may have to dig through the tonal papers again to see. I don't know that I think the Island Waters cardstock was a little too bright. So I'm gonna have to play around with that a little bit. I'm not committed to this paper back here. It might be fine. I think so. For this up here, I show using, you could use a 4 1/4 by 6.5 inch cardstock mat. I actually think I might go ahead with the canary on that, just brighten it up. I like a little bit, just a little bit more. So that would sit on here. And then those are set up to have so that background page definitely needs to be adjusted. There is some purple. I could go with purple on this. Trying to think what's in. I've got the yeah, I'm gonna have to just kind of look through this again. I've got a whole stack of the papers. I pulled the Totally Tonals, the tangerines in there. I've got some shimmer papers. I could use eggplant cardstock. I do have Tropical Wave, I think was one. It was a Tropical Wave was one of those papers that we had. And I think that's going to be the color I'm going to use. Just a cardstock back there rather than. What it's going to allow to happen is it's going to allow those popsicles to stand out just a little bit more. I think there was just a little too much going on with this. The other thing I could do is if I want more of those popsicles to show is I could flip this. And I think I almost like that better. Also allows me to dial back a little bit of that pink. I don't normally have a lot of pink in my life like this. So I think that's what I'm going to do. It'll be set up like that. So I'll do another piece over here. It'll be the same way. So there we go. That is going to be how it's going to come together. So I will get everything adhered into place. Now my popsicle pattern lines up. Um, 3.5-inch square mats will come onto here. I think I can do 3.5 off of this piece. And then I'll use some 3-inch or 3.25-inch photos. So not, just having a little bit of that yellow to show through. Just gives that pop of color. The blue will also have a nice matting effect to whatever additional photos I put there. All right, so that is my layout. I still would need to add some photos. We've got a good start. I give you the directions on how to put it all together. The different photos or the different size of photos that you can add. Of course, you've got pieces. You can rearrange these as you need to get them to work with your layout. If you have horizontal or vertical images, it's super easy to just switch this around, go the other direction. Your border across the bottom, and that works perfect. You could also come in, put your border in the middle. There's different ways that you can play with that. So you can see what's going to work best for your photos. So looking forward to seeing how you guys personalize this to make your own, how you do your punches and everything like that. So that'll be a lot of fun to see as you guys share it within the Facebook group. And that does kind of bring us to, wrapping up a little bit of things here at the end. If you have questions about the layout, please type them in the chat and I'll answer those for you. They're on your handout. You will see where it says we have the hashtag. If you share them into the ideas and inspiration group, it will use that hashtag, and it helps us to keep track of everybody so we can see all the lovely stuff. And it also allows us to do our drawing, right? So you have until, we generally give you guys a week. So if you're able to go ahead and get them posted or shared by the end of day on the 13th, basically, I will be doing this drawing since Tessa is going to be in the middle of nowhere, Colorado. So basically until I'm ready to do the drawing, and I will not be doing the drawing before, it'll be the 14th or 15th at the earliest that I do it. So you have until I share, but definitely try to get, or till I do the drawing. But I would tell you that post no later than the 13th will definitely get you in the drawing. So we do not have the date yet for the August Power Hour. Tessa and I are in intense negotiations to, it's not that bad. We're just trying to literally figure out a day that works. Tessa's kids start schools, but mine do not. But we do have college kids that we've got to drop off and all that fun stuff. So as you guys know, August can sometimes turn into a little bit of a mess. I do see the question from Lisa about which border punches to use for graduation. And those, so I would say, graduation, I like the chevron. The chevron, the stars. Sometimes it depends on if we have something that matches your kid's mascot or something at school. So like my kid's mascot for high school was the Bruins. So I use animal tracks a lot with things, but that works. But like you said, the stars would be really good. If you can't mix and match, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Just use a similar one. What you could do is, if you can't mix and match, what you can do is come in and add pops of color, different colors behind it, maybe 2-inch segments. And so instead of one long segment that you have that's at 12 inches, you could make it a little bit harder and just do some 6 2-inch segments. That would give you a little bit of color variation, a little more detail that you have to do to put 3 of those borders together like that, but it would be an option. Similar for something like outdoor sports, whether it's shooting, gun range, hunting, things like that. Part of it's just going to be, whatever kind of fits into your thing. I usually go with the geometric shapes. So chevron, double chevron, arrow, those types of things are going to be, work really well for that. And if you don't have, just mix and match and just play with it. And if you can't, in all honesty, just use 3 border elements. It could be a chain border if you've got, stickers, things like that. So don't force it too hard. So you don't, just see what you think. Maybe you're going to just use the matting technique of, those matte pieces and flipping a cut of the paper. Maybe that's all you're taking away from this particular project. That's perfectly fine. So like I said, we will have August Power Hour date will be coming soon. You can find tomorrow, we will have the video and the handout will be sent out via email. I don't think we have any corrections, so that it should be fairly quickly, some point tomorrow. If ever you have missed a Power Hour, if you're new to us and you want to have old Power Hours, they are available in our shop. You can go to meggantessa.com/shop. And you can see all of our past Power Hours. They are free. So you just have to go in, add them to your cart and check out, and you should be all set. Is there anything else I'm forgetting?
No, not about this. Someone asked about the promo, but we don't know.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I missed it. I didn't scroll through all the stuff here. Yeah, we do not know anything about the promo other than it starts on the 17th, right?
Correct.
The
We'll know
17th.
the 4th. Yeah, well, advisors will find out the 14th. It launches the 17th. There will be a choice. We know it's you pick it, but that's all we know.
Yes. And I did scroll back and see a question about the perforations staying flipped up. That's always going to be, an interesting part of it. It depends on how smashed your stuff is. If you use other dimensional items, it will help give yourself a little bit of spacing within there. Sometimes if you're using, you have photos with mats and everything else, it just gives you just enough spacing between your page protector and the layout itself that you will have that. Otherwise, it's going to fall into some of the other dimensional stuff. It's just going to get smashed back down, right? Everyone's like, do you see stuff that has some folds? And you're just like, that's not going to stay very foldy when it's in the page protectors, but it's fun to use that perforating blade. to do some things with it, but you could also use the scoring blade. And if you really wanted to, you could have just used the decorative blade to cut the other side before you add it to your the backing. So it'd have wave on both sides. All right. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. And I think that's all we have. So everybody, hope you stay cool, stay safe if you are taking trips. We're all going to be thinking of Tessa as she's driving 17 hours in one day. Bless her heart for that thing. I've never been able to do much more than 12. Or maybe my kids can't do more than 12. Maybe that's usually what it is, right?
It's easier when the kids don't cry at you anymore. You still have Cody and he's young.
No, Cody's not the problem. Cody's not the problem.
Okay. Is it Scott? Is Scott the problem?
No. Actually, my oldest doesn't do well on the long car rides because he gets really upset at Cody when Cody just starts acting like an 8-year-old, right? So we just don't take Kevin in car rides with us anymore. So, all right, everyone, take care. We will see you in August. All right. Bye.
Bye.